Hey everyone. Hey everyone. So my name's James from Sanctus. Excited to be here on the Psychologies magazine page and here to talk about mental health. If you've got any questions kind of throughout, please just drop in a comment. Ask any questions about mental health. I'm going to be talking about my story and also the Sanctus approach to mental health. Just a little bit about Sanctus to kind of so you all know what I'm here for. Sanctus's vision is to put the world's first mental health gym on the high street. So yeah, we see a world where people treat their mental health just like they do. Oh, brilliant. Hi from Madagascar. Some advices to avoid burnout. Um, yeah, thanks for sharing, Clementine. Burnout is definitely something which comes up a lot in the work that Sanctus does with people, and it's definitely something that I've experienced myself, to be honest. A few years ago, I started a business, shut it down, and actually during the business, I didn't feel actually that burnt out, but it was kind of about a 6-month lag afterwards where I felt started to feel the signs and the symptoms of what for me felt like burnout. It kind of felt like I had nothing left to give, to be honest. Like I'd kind of given everything. I suppose advice. Hi, Psychologies magazine. Happy to be here. My advice would be to explore what kind of burnout means for you. It's like a phrase that I think is very like all encompassing, and people use burnout in different ways. So I think what burnout maybe means for me might be different for you. But I think, talking about what does burnout feel like for you? I'd be really curious to know when you say burnout, like what are those feelings? Is it a feeling of heaviness, emptiness? Do you just feel like you can't get out of bed in the morning? Do you just feel physically exhausted? What does it actually mean? Because burnout can be a bit of a catch-all phrase. Not expecting you to do that now here in the comment section, but it might be something that you could do with coach, therapist, friend, family member, just to kind of really like go into it a little bit deeply. I think it's quite difficult to just take something like burnout or anxiety and say, how do I cure that? Because with anything in mental health, there's kind of no quick fix. It's very individual to us. So my advice would certainly be to explore what it really means to you in a place where you feel safe. Hi, Robin and Neville. I'm just going to read these now. I've not got my contacts in, so I'm having to look closely. I'm going to go Neville. The fear of uncertainty. I feel like I'm getting a lot of questions about how to solve things, and I just want to reiterate that. It's not. I think with mental health, like there's no quick fix. It's not like with our physical health. I think things can maybe feel a lot more black and white. So if we're out of shape or if we're feeling ill, there are like set things that we can do to take a paracetamol, take a painkiller, go on a run, lose some weight. But just like with our physical health, those things are really different for everyone. So for me, the things that I do for my mental health are, is coaching and therapy, essentially. I really find that when I talk to someone impartial or confidential, someone that I just trust, that's not a friend or a family member, I feel like I can really explore those things that are going on for me. Fear of uncertainty, Neville, I know really well. Run my own business, so that the feeling of uncertainty is kind of a constant one, I think, in my life. Certainly something I've talked about before, and only really through talking about it and understanding what certainty and safety and security mean for me and why they're important, and also what my relationship with uncertainty is. Have I been able to kind of work out how to deal with those things? I suppose on uncertainty for me, I think I find that I have like a tormented relationship with uncertainty. One, I hate it because it feels uncertain, but on the other hand, I thrive in it. So it's kind of knowing that what are the behaviors that might start to come up in me before I feel uncertain. So I know that sometimes when I start to feel uncertain about something, I talk loads, I ask loads of questions. I maybe just say a lot of stuff that's like not really relevant. And I start to think a lot. And actually, when I'm kind of just following my heart, I know that I'm not really thinking or asking as many questions, but that's just what it is for me. Psychologies magazine, thank you. I'm actually going to pin that comment for now. Lovely. Yeah, my journey and being resilient and emotionally strong. Yeah, for me, like with many people in mental health, with their own kind of journey of mental health, I was kind of never, growing up, I didn't really know much about mental health, and I was never interested in it, if I'm honest. It just wasn't something that, sorry, I was just checking what Neville said back. I'm going to continue with this one. Neville, sorry for now. Yeah, mental health was something that was never, never on my radar until really I started to feel my mental health. I had a period in my life where I was struggling with a lot of anxiety. I started to have panic attacks. Oh, thanks. Cheers, Neville. Good luck exploring your relationship with uncertainty. I hope that's thought-provoking for you. I'm sure it will be. Yeah, I just never thought about my mental health until I really started to feel it. I started to struggle with anxiety, panic attacks. I spent a lot of time, in the working day, in the cubicle of the bathroom, kind of trying to focus on my breath, just, my heart kind of pounding, not in my stomach, palpitations, not feeling like I could really breathe very well. So I really started to feel my mental health. And for me, it was probably a lot of emotions and thoughts and feelings that I'd let kind of fester. And I'd let them kind of fester and just not really talked about them for a long time. And they started to emerge and manifest in my body, and and my mental health suffered from that. And for me, the biggest game changer in my mental health has been, to be honest, like opening up about it and talking, just quite openly. Initially, I wrote a blog post called Mental Health in Startups, which was the industry I was working in, and I kind of came out, essentially. I kind of put my hand up and said, look, this is me. This is what I've been going through. And for the first time in a long time, I was very, very honest with the people around me about how I'd been feeling with my mental health. I'd never really talked publicly about it before, and it was quite scary, but it felt that it meant that I felt accepted and heard, and I was being myself. And actually, whilst nothing changed overnight with my mental health, I felt so much better just straight away because I was being more myself and being more honest. So I felt like a weight was lifted. And from there, I started to explore loads of different things related to mental health, anything that I felt like I could do for my mental health as I would do stuff for my physical health. I started, went into therapy, started coaching. I did some group therapy, meditation, journaling. Yeah, loads of different things. I was exploring my mental health as I would explore my physical health. Like, with my physical health, if I wanted to get in shape, I might try CrossFit, I might try training for a marathon, I might try yoga. So I was doing all of these different things for my mental health. I would definitely feel like that did make me more, or has made me more resilient, I think. And when I say resilient, I don't necessarily always mean strong. I think there can be a misconception maybe that to be strong, you need to kind of close off and not talk about your emotions and your feelings. And actually, to me, being strong and to be resilient does mean also being vulnerable, talking about the things that are hard, sometimes yielding to a situation and accepting a situation for the way it is. But I feel like that's developed in me, through a lot of self exploration and self discovery. Really, a lot of talking, a lot of sitting with my feelings, not avoiding them, not ignoring them. And I think the more you can kind of actually feel your feelings and actually talk about them, then that's how you develop resilience and kind of mental strength. The more we avoid and run away, then we're not facing up to anything. It's like never lifting that weight in the gym. If you don't push yourself to the edges of your comfort zone and what it feels like to feel vulnerable and be exposed and say those things that you might be a little bit scared of saying or opening up about, then you're not going to get any stronger. So I think the gym analogy is really strong in mental health. You have to get mentally stronger, you have to first admit that you have mental health and there might be some things in your life that you need to improve. If I want to go to the gym and I want to get stronger, I want to get bigger biceps, let's say, I have to first accept that my body's not in the shape that I want it to be. And to improve our mental health, we first have to accept that maybe our mental health is not quite where we want it to be. And if we can't accept that and we can't be open about that, then there's no way we can move forward. I think to become more mentally strong and more mentally resilient, who want to be like that, but to be like that, you've got to accept that, there might be some stuff that you got to deal with. And that's kind of just the way it goes. I feel like that perception of mental health is what stops a lot of people doing that. People perceive mental health as weakness. They think, oh, if I talk about mental health, it means I'm weak. It means I'm not strong. I think that's changing now. And I think the doing stuff like this is kind of an example of people are starting to see that actually talking about mental health isn't anything to be ashamed of. It's something to be quite proud of, to work on yourself in that way. Just reading through some of these questions now. I feel like I've been talking for a long time. Robin, what is your advice when you don't feel supported by your treatment team and don't feel they are listening? It's a good question. I suppose I think it's a question that maybe a lot of people can relate to. Of, what do you do when you don't feel like you're getting the right kind of support for your mental health that you feel like you might need? I think it's great in your case, Robin, if you're still here, that you feel like you are at least getting some support. You are talking to someone about your mental health and where you're at, which I think is really great. I suppose the first thing I would say there is we see it within Sanctus a lot, is a lot of people sometimes come to it and see a Sanctus coach and feel that they didn't get from the session what they would like to get from the session. And in our case, we work in coaching and therapy, and I'm not sure what treatment you're currently receiving. And it means that sometimes the individual isn't feeling heard. They're not feeling like they're getting what they want. They're not feeling listened to, and they're just not getting out of the session what they would like to get out of it. I think with any kind of talking therapies in particular, the space and the relationship is definitely co-created. And I think sometimes as individuals receiving coaching or therapy or receiving support for our mental health, we kind of expect perhaps to be fixed and for the practitioner to do something on us, fix me, make me better, make my mental health better. Whereas actually we do have a role to play in that relationship as well. And this is where maybe mental health and physical health are a little bit different, but it's perhaps the same again. If I want to lose weight and I've got a personal trainer, I need, and they tell me to do 10 press-ups, and I don't feel like those press-ups are working for me and I'm not seeing the goals I would like to, I have a duty to say, I don't think this is working for me and this is why. So I feel like something that's very powerful that you can do with whoever you're receiving support from is really, really be honest and say, this is why, this is not working for me, and here's why, here's what I'm feeling. And someone who's well-trained and is good I think, in my experience, that will be music to their ears, because it's a way of establishing trust with you two, or you and whoever you're working with. And it can be a way for them to start to understand what you want and what you need. If that's still the case, then I suppose, maybe that's not the right support for you, and it's not the right, it's not the right space for you. Again, don't know specifics, so I'm trying to be quite general, which is quite hard. So I appreciate that might not be the answer you're looking for. But I suppose my two nuggets there, if they do help at all, would be really open and really honest with the people that you are receiving support from. If it's enough for you, and really be honest with what you're feeling, and see if you can make any changes from that. And then if that continues, maybe seek additional support. Thanks for that, Methany, and thank you so much for sharing. I can definitely relate, to friends and family not always quite getting it. It's really difficult sometimes for people to understand what it is we're going through. A lot of our feelings are so personal, just raw, just that only really we feel like we can understand. And sometimes friends, family, they just don't get it, and that's kind of just the way it is, I think. And I certainly agree that a good therapist can be a lifesaver and incredibly valuable. And I've certainly seen it on both sides. I felt like working with a good coach or a good therapist has certainly got me from a low place to feeling at center, perhaps. And I've also then felt beyond that, and I felt like I've really kind of grown with a good therapist and a good coach. Melanie, that's a fantastic question. Thank you so much for sharing that. I hope I've heard you in the right way. And what it brings up for me when you said it was that I know of a few cases in the past through my work with Sanctus where people have entered a space, maybe it's a group, or they've shared to a friend or a partner or someone close to them, or maybe someone at work, and they've really been quite vulnerable and shared something that's going on for them, something that was really difficult for them to say. And in some cases, the person that they were sharing that with hasn't received it well, and the individual who shared can potentially feel like they've not been heard, basically, and maybe even feel shunned or can feel a sense of shame for what they've shared. I've seen it before. I've seen it a lot where people almost get like a bit of what you might call a shame hangover. You've shared, you don't feel like you were heard in the way that you wanted to, you don't feel like it was received in the way that you would have liked, and you kind of feel like you feel maybe a little bit of shame about what you've said to someone. What I would say to that is, don't let someone's reaction to you, don't let that doesn't say anything about you. It says more about the individual, perhaps. So if you do share to someone who doesn't quite get it, maybe that just says more about where they're at with their own mental health, that they just couldn't relate, perhaps. So don't let it don't let it kind of cloud your own judgment, because it's not about you, it's more about them. In that case, and their response says more about them than it does about you. And then I would just encourage you to share again, but maybe with someone else, maybe with someone that's completely impartial. Maybe it is a coach, maybe it is a therapist. And don't be disheartened, because I think someone's response and reaction to us sharing about our mental health often says more about them than it does about us. I'm just reading your comment here, Julie. Thanks for commenting. Bravo, excellent advice. We all have a duty to ourselves to put the effort in. Definitely agree with that. Oh, more questions, Julie. I'm coming. Most of the time, people mentally don't know what they want. This is a great year for having a think. We have to ask ourselves, what do you want from the experience you subject yourself to? Agreed. Thanks, Melanie. Julie Spencer, what does the word resilience mean to you? Great question. Yeah, I touched on this before. To me, resilience actually doesn't mean strength. It doesn't mean kind of being strong and being stoic and kind of like powering through our problems and, you know, closing off and not talking to anyone. It certainly doesn't mean that. I think resilience for me means a few different things. I think the word that comes up a lot for me with resilience is acceptance, actually. It doesn't mean kind of, I just think with resilience, we often have this image of kind of like, you know, being against all odds and ignoring something or just powering ahead and charging through. But it brings up very like lots of connotations of strength and power almost. Whereas for me, resilience means being adaptable, being malleable, being accepting of a certain situation and noticing my reaction to a certain situation. Life throws up all sorts of stuff. You know, on any given day, we can all deal with so much, and there's so many things going to kind of happen to us in our lives. Being resilient doesn't mean kind of charging through that. To me, it means accepting it, really feeling, you know, feeling what happens in my body when something comes up for me, noticing how I feel, and actually then being able to do something about that and act. And sometimes that might be not doing anything at all. Sometimes it might be having a difficult conversation. It might be, you know, it might be changing something in my life. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Julie. You know, resilience doesn't necessarily always mean not being knocked down. I think actually, you know, to be resilient, yeah, we might get knocked down and we might be on the floor and we might be really sad and we might be upset, we might be grieving, we might be heartbroken. And to me, resilience isn't ignoring that and saying, no, I'm fine. Resilience is saying, yeah, I don't, accepting that, yeah, I'm on the floor right now. I don't feel great. And then that to me is true resilience, you know, because I think you can, once you accept, that's when you can truly grow. I think if you ignore and you avoid and you distract, then you're not going to be able to move forward. This is any more questions, guys? By the way, this is great. Answering questions makes it easy for me as well, so I don't have to think what to say off the top of my head. I feel like I missed a question though, from Robin. Again, if you're still here, what can you recommend for people being pigeonholed? Yeah, I'm guessing Robin here. I can't quite tell from the question. Cheers, Julie. Is people that have been is maybe getting labelled with a term like bipolar disorder or borderline personality disorder or something like that. I'm guessing. I know in mental health that you know, labels are rife. Lots of different labels. I don't really feel comfortable kind of giving my opinion on what to do in that case or what a certain label means, because I'm not qualified to do that. What I do know is that labeling and lots of the terminology in mental health was the thing that often really kind of put me off opening up in the first instance about my mental health and talking to someone. I think labels really work for some people in helping them understand what it is they're going through. For me, labels often kind of like put me off. They made me feel like I was being judged. They made me kind of feel like I was broken and I need to fix it. You know, it really just didn't resonate with the labels that I probably would have been given. You know, generalized anxiety disorder, let's say, which is nothing wrong with that. It just didn't fit right for me. again, I think with the similar question above on burnout, what would you do to avoid burnout? It's a similar thing around, I don't know, it is the label that perhaps you've been given, or, whether it's bipolar or whatever it might be, but I'd be really curious to know, like, what do those labels actually mean? Because I think sometimes it's really easy for us to stick a label on someone and say, right, you're this is what you've got, this is who you are. And actually, I think I'd be more curious as to what are the underlying feelings and emotions that sit within that, and let's explore that instead. I just think when we start to do that, we realize that, look, I haven't got the label of bipolar, but I can guarantee if me and a person diagnosed with bipolar had a conversation now, there would be a lot of similarities in our feelings that we've both been through. Hi, Joe. Thanks for sharing. I have depression and anxiety. I have the tendency to isolate myself, which I know is a vicious circle and makes it all worse. It was hard, but I recently opened up about my problems and asked for help. I'm now getting support to help me get back to work. Been enrolled onto courses at a local recovery college. I feel almost all well by all the help out there. And for the first time in ages, I'm feeling optimistic about the future. I think it's important that people know that there is help available. My first step was my GP of the info about, he gave me the info about improving access to psychiatric services. I had to get down to my worst before picking up. Joe, whoever you are, thank you for sharing that story. Incredibly powerful, and something which I also relate to. I didn't go down the GP route personally, but similar to you, and for many of us, I'm sure, I've tendency to isolate myself when I'm feeling low, because that's possibly the easiest thing to do, shut yourself off in your room. And when I opened up, I was also overwhelmed, not only actually by what is out there, but by how compassionate and how empathetic people are. I think in the world that we perhaps live in, we only see a certain side to people. We maybe only see a surface level front. And actually, when you are brave and you open up and you share what's going on for you, I think I've always just continually been blown away by kind of the compassion of, other humans, essentially. And it sounds like your journey is kind of similar in that. I'm not saying that journey's easy. Opening up and talking and dealing with some of that stuff and exploring why you might isolate yourself and all that. And I know, I can only imagine that that's been difficult at times for you, but I can definitely relate to how powerful it is to receive that level of kind of empathy from people. It kind of, for me, it's kind of opened my eyes to and made me feel very positive about the way the world is going. There's a lot of hope, I believe. Hello. Lots of likes coming in. Guys, please keep the questions coming. This is great. I don't want to just talk. I'd rather, if anyone's got any questions again about like my mental health, about Sanctus, even obviously wearing the t-shirt. Please ask away. I think it's amazing that we're sitting here talking about mental health on a Facebook Live. I think that is a great step in the way the world is going. Mental health's often been quite a taboo topic. It's been something that people have not necessarily wanted to talk about. And here we are talking about mental health very, very publicly on Facebook, which I think is brilliant. So I would encourage anyone listening to not only ask a question, but if you don't feel comfortable asking a question, please, maybe have a think about what is your relationship to mental health, and is there anyone in your life you could maybe chat to about your own mental health? KC, thank you. Yeah, thanks for asking, KC. And obviously you've just touched on the vision of Sanctus to open the world's first mental health gym. And I would love to have mental health gyms across the world where we can all enter a space where we can feel completely comfortable to be ourselves and talk about the things that are perhaps difficult for us. Currently, Sanctus actually only really works in businesses and in the workplace, where we put our coaches into the workplace to create a space for people to talk to someone one-on-one about anything that's going on for them. We mainly work with adults at the moment, if I'm honest. Working with teenagers and kids to talk about mental health from a very early age is something which I'm, like, as many of us are, I'm sure, deeply passionate about, and I think it just has to happen. I don't know where you're from in the world. Obviously, I'm here in London, in the UK, and right now there's starting to be more about mental health and mindfulness more broadly on the curriculum at schools. And for me, it's just something that I think just has to happen. Growing up, I did PE, physical education, and that was on the curriculum at schools, and we all had to do it. Same with, sex education. And we just have to have something around mental health on the curriculum at schools for people kids at an early age to start to understand and to talk about. And then going beyond that, if we're also going to support adults by giving them access to mental health gyms or coaches at work or whatever it might be, if Sanctus has their way, that's what we'll do. We absolutely really have to give kids and students emotional support at school, I think. I think for me, looking back, school was a really joyful time for me, but it was also quite stressful. And I think there are a lot of people that have really difficult times at school, have difficult times at home growing up, and I'm sure there's a lot of kids and a lot of teenagers that would really value a space to talk at school as well. So you're in the UK, secondary school teacher. Yeah, so we've started to do a couple of talks at schools actually, and if you're interested in that, drop me a comment or follow Sanctus and get in touch. But yeah, exploring how we could, one, put mental health more on the curriculum for schools, and two, how we can create a space in a school for kids to talk to someone impartial, professional, is something that I'd love to explore as well. One step at a time though, and it's definitely a big challenge to take on. I'm just going to say as well, apologies if I kind of butcher anyone's first name or surname. I'm looking at you, Ninia. I'm just reading your comment now. You just changed your current country. I just got back and now feel strange. I found it hard to get used to the lifestyle here. I don't feel really emotionally strong at the moment. Any advice? I mean, to be honest, I just want to acknowledge that you've kind of just shared that, and I appreciate that sharing it here to us on this Facebook Live might feel more safe, because I don't know you. It's just a kind of comment on a screen. And I suppose I'm curious to know what you sharing that with someone at home would feel like. And I just wonder if there's other people in your home country or, near where you live who feel similar. And actually, by you sharing that might be a gift for them, and it might be a way for you to start a conversation. So yeah, I suppose my advice would be to, if you felt comfortable, share that with someone close to you at home. Alice, I'm just reading your comment. Thanks for commenting. Any advice for helping relatives that are reluctant or scared to help themselves and make positive changes? My dad talks a lot about past relationships. Alice, please write the comment again. I think I kind of get what you're touching on. And again, huge question, which I think is so important, is I'm gonna put this there. Is, if you've got someone in your life that you think you would like to explore their mental health a little bit more, and you think maybe would really value talking about their mental health, how do you get them to start to explore that and start to open up? A family can be a really difficult one as well, let's be honest. Can be lots of ingrained sort of dogmas and ways of being and sort of hierarchies in the family, and lots of past issues perhaps, and past events and trauma and emotion. So definitely bringing stuff up with family members can see. Actually, on the Sanctus podcast this morning, me and one of the Sanctus coaches were having a conversation about this, and Vic, who was hosting the podcast, asked, like, what can we do to help someone that we might like to explore their mental health a little bit more? And one of our coaches' advice was, I thought was really, really actionable, was kind of say what you see without judgment. So if you see, someone in your family, maybe they're a little bit stressed, or they're a little bit down, or they're a little bit anxious, and you think they would really value opening up and exploring that a little bit more, it's easy for you to say, I've noticed this. That's it. End of sentence. It doesn't have to be, I've noticed this. And is that because of those past relationships that you're really struggling with? That someone might feel judged and they might get a little bit defensive, but I've noticed this. So say what you see, I think, can be a really valuable piece of advice. It's a really difficult one. And obviously each relationship and each interaction is so unique. Again, just want to caveat that every relationship is so different that what works for other people might be different to what I've shared. But I know that for me, I feel like the advice of say what you see in someone without judgment really, really hit home for me. Julie, thank you for the compliment on the name Sanctus. The brand all came from up here in my mind, so that's a bit of what I would call an ego biscuit for me. So thank you. The name Sanctus came about in two ways, really. One is that when I was kind of thinking about mental health and what I wanted for my own mental health, it was that what I see in people that I really admire and what I class as like good mental health, or just a really good place to be, is when someone is very comfortable in their own skin and when someone can really be themselves. I know that's a constant process that we're all learning and we're all kind of constantly morphing, but I really felt that like truly being yourself is something to be really proud of. And that to me feels like good mental health. And what I know for myself is in times of my life when I wasn't myself and I was maybe quite disconnected from myself, that's when lots of my mental health issues are emerged, essentially. So yes, Sanctus is a Latin word, which is kind of directly translated as holy, but loosely translated as pure. And that's a word that I'd always liked when I met someone who I felt very drawn to and very warmed to, and felt like they were very approachable. I would say in my head, oh, they're so pure. They really stick to their values. That's who they are. They're very comfortable with who they are. So that's what Sanctus really means. But also, it's where the word sanctuary is derived from. And if we're to put a mental health gym on the high street, or if we're to create spaces where people feel comfortable to open up about their mental health, then that's a sanctuary for me. It's a safe space. So guys, I'm going to basically shoot in probably the next 5 minutes, if that's okay. I also noticed that I've done a lot of talking and started to get quite tired. So it's important for me to manage my own mental health today. But if anyone's got any other questions about Sanctus and what we do, any other questions about mental health, anything to share, actually, I'm really pleased and grateful that there have been a few of you that decided to share your own experiences with mental health. I think that's really, really powerful for us all to see that, mental health is something we've all got, just like we've all got physical health. There's no shame in experiencing something with your mental health. It's just life, really. And I think by some of you guys sharing those stories, that's really, really helping to make that normal. So thank you. Cheers, guys. No, thank you, Psychologies. Thank you for having me. This has been great. If you're here and you haven't checked out the wider campaign that Psychologies are part of, then please do check out the last few posts to find out more. Alice, I'm just reading the rest of your comment now. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Alice. I'm sure that's like a relationship pattern which a lot of people can relate to. I wouldn't feel comfortable commenting on your dad's case in particular. I would reiterate what I've kind of just touched on. It sounds like your dad opens up to you quite a lot, actually, and says a lot of that stuff to you. I think, and it sounds like what you're battling with is how do you get him to make that next step from opening up to you and kind of discussing it to starting to get to the point where maybe he explores it more deeply, and can kind of make a change from that, which is a big step, because I think for a lot of us, even if we're aware of some of the stuff that we've got, actually facing it and talking about it is a separate thing, because we're possibly starting to peel off that plaster, and we're afraid that we might get hurt again exploring that. Again, I think it sounds like you've got a really special relationship, and maybe you can possibly play a part in helping him get that support that he might need. I can understand the reticence to go and see the GP. I wonder. I'm curious to know how much of what you've just said here you've said. If you've said that you really do think he's unhappy and needs to make a big change. If you said that and how that's gone down. You can't force anyone to do anything, but I think what you can do is you can be really honest and really open, and share that back. You can really say what you feel and how his actions are making you feel. And I think sometimes that can be really powerful. We can often be a really strong mirror to the people around us. And I know I've made big changes in my life before when people close to me have said, James, this is how you're making me feel. And because if your dad is down and you think that he's unhappy, that's obviously going to make you feel unhappy and feel a certain way. I'm not kind of trying to put words in your mouth. So I would possibly encourage you to possibly say how he's making you feel in a way. And that might be sadness. It might be that you're frustrated, that you feel like he's got more to give in his life, whatever that might be. I think that could be a really helpful conversation. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know the full details, so I'm just trying my best to offer some advice and encouragement. Thanks a lot, Julie. And actually, guys, I'm going to shoot off now, but if any of you would like to connect, Sanctus, please like us or follow us on Instagram. Thanks, Alice. I'm sorry I can't be of more help there. I suppose that the last thing maybe I would say is I wonder if there's other people in your life or in your family that can also try and have those conversations, so it's not all just on you as well. Guys, I'm going to end the live video now. I just again want to reiterate, thank you so much for all sharing and asking questions. I think this is amazing that we've had such an engaged conversation about mental health on Facebook. Really enjoyed it. I've literally just dropped a last comment. If anyone wants to continue the conversation or chat and ask me questions, it's best to do that through Sanctus. If I didn't respond, someone from Sanctus will. And again, just want to shout out to Psychologies for yeah, for putting this together and letting me take over their their Facebook page and do this. Again, like I said, please check out their last few posts and have a look at the last few, what this whole campaign is about. Obviously, this is part of a stronger day about the film that's coming out, and then I know there's more coming out on the page later. So stay tuned for that. Thanks everyone, and hope to connect with some of you shortly.